The LA Angels have had a very interesting 2025 season so far. Despite having one of the worst team batting averages and team ERAs in the entire MLB, the Angels have barely managed to stay afloat in a packed AL wildcard race. With the Angels' young core making important strides and Trout coming back strong from the IL, this team has been super exciting to watch, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated teams during this 2025 MLB season. Even so, the Angels have failed to put consistent pitching around their home run-centered offense, and they once again have not put a playoff team around all-time great Mike Trout. Now, I hope I'm wrong on this, and I hope that the Angels will go on a massive run to end this 2025 season, because it would be awesome to see this specific team make the playoffs with the young core, with how many home runs they hit. But yeah, we will see, so let's break down the LA Angels season so far. And before I get into the video, make sure to subscribe to Chad Bats for potentially more MLB content. We'll see how much I can put out here to end off this MLB season, but I'm definitely having fun so far making baseball content and trying out this new channel. So make sure you guys subscribe if you do want more content, because that will let me know that you guys want to see more of this. And also, very quick, subscribe to Ace Ball Entertainment if you haven't already. Now let's get into the Angels. They have been near top 5 in the MLB in home runs pretty much all season, with the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Yankees, Diamondbacks, and the Seattle Mariners, which has been extremely impressive. They just have a lot of guys that can just hit home runs, and it's been very, very fun to watch. The downside is, though, they've been near the bottom of the league in batting average. And I'll have, obviously, some stats and graphics up on the screen. Basically, the whole time, this is from the MLB app, so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. And, obviously, the stats fluctuate quite a bit, right? It's in 162-game MLB season. But yeah, all the stats up on the screen. And with that, too, they're also just above middle of the pack in slugging percentage, which is still pretty good because, you know, like I said, they are near bottom of the league in batting average, but considering how much they hit homers, I guess that kind of makes sense. Now we move on to Taylor Ward. Man, he leads the team in home runs and RBIs. He has had a tremendous year. And for the most part, his batting average really isn't what it has been, at least for the past couple years. But Taylor Ward, man, he's getting on base. He's hitting home runs. He's driving in a lot of runs for this team. I don't know where the Angels would be right now without Taylor Ward. And he has arguably, in a lot of ways, been their best player and most consistent player throughout this season. Then we have Jo Adell, who's having a breakout season. He kind of changed his batting swing a little bit. He now kind of has a short step before he starts swinging. He just seems to be a lot more rhythm, obviously making better contact with the baseball. And I think we saw flashes of what Jo Adell could do over the past couple seasons. There'd be stretches where he would really hit for power. He'd hit a lot of home runs. And then there's some stretches where he would go, you know, pretty cold, right? Maybe he would be striking out, right? So now you're starting to really see him put it together consistently. And at least the time that I'm recording this video, he's been on a little bit of a cold stretch, but still, you look at the entirety of this 2025 season, Jo Adell has really put together a nice breakout campaign, and he has over 20 home runs already, and we still got a good amount of games left to go in this season. Now we move on to Logan O'Hoppe. He's kind of had inconsistent stretches at times. There's times where he goes, you know, extremely cold, has a really tough time getting on base, and there's stretches where he hits a whole bunch of home runs. At the recording of this video, he has sort of near 20. I expect him to maybe get closer to that 30 mark by the end of the season. I'm sure he'll catch fire at some point. But yeah, he's been a pretty solid catcher. He's one of the better home run hitting catchers in baseball, but he's just got to find a way to be a bit more consistent. Look, he's still obviously very young, along with a lot of the other guys in this Angels young core, so I think we'll get it going. It's just only a matter of time. Then we have Zach Neto. Man, he has broken out into one of the best shortstops in baseball. Kind of started the season off on the injured list, but ever since then, man, he's been pretty good. I know he's kind of been dealing with a shoulder issue. There was times where he was pretty much only being like a pinch hitter and things like that. But now he's, you know, been obviously back in the lineup consistently, has been great as the Angels leadoff hitter. Yeah, he's just had a good season. Like I said, one of the best shortstops in baseball, can hit for power a little bit, is obviously great at making contact, and is amazing defensively at that shortstop position. Then move on to Mike Trout, obviously the Angels franchise player. There has been plenty of rumors of him potentially requesting a trade and leaving the team, but here we are. Trout is still in the Angels. You know, he's dealt with his fair share of injuries throughout this season, but you know what? He's still hit around 19 homers in roughly 81 games played, as you can see the numbers up on the screen. That will probably change by the time I upload this video. But yeah, you know, Trout, he's still hitting for power. Obviously, the batting average, definitely not where he would like it to be, but that power is still there, and now he's pretty much been a DH just so, you know, the Angels can manage him for the most part and make sure he's healthy, especially towards the latter half of this season. And to finish kind of talking about this Angels young core, I've talked about, you know, Neto, Adele, Ohapi, but let's get to Nolan Schanuel. Man, he has been great at first base. Had a lot of clutch moments all year. He's not really a guy that's necessarily going to hit for power, but he's a smart hitter, right? He can get on base, he can get singles, and that's pretty much what you need at the top of that Angels lineup. And like I said, been extremely clutch all season, and he just plays a lot of motion and fire, and I love to see it, man. Nolan Schanuel, he's been definitely one of my favorite players on the Angels this season. Another guy who I think could be an X factor if he stays healthy, that is Yohan Moncada. You know, you can see his numbers up here on the screen. He has had some decent stretches throughout his career where he's hit for power, where he's been a consistent hitter, but the struggle for him is being consistently healthy, and he struggled with his fair share of injuries this year, but I think if he can come back, I think he definitely adds another element and dimension to this Angels lineup. Another guy that can obviously hit for power and hit home runs like pretty much this whole Angels team can at this point. So yeah, that's another guy to keep an eye on. Then we have Jorge Soler and Travis d'Arnaud. These are two veterans who have been solid, I would say, for most of the season. Soler, obviously you'd like to see him, you know, hit more home runs, be a little bit more consistent, but I'm sure he'll get it going. And then Travis d'Arnaud, he's been a pretty solid backup catcher, a great vet to help mentor and just, you know, help Logan Ohapi overall. And he's been a guy that stepped in and had some nice clutch moments, some clutch home runs. He's just a very serviceable vet, right? He's just a guy you want to have on your roster. Like I said, just perfect to back up Logan Ohapi. Now with Luis Rengifo, he's kind of struggled compared to last year. He batted actually over 300, though it was in limited games. I believe it was around 80 to 90 games or so. And this year, that batting average really just hasn't been there as much. And really, over the past couple years, he really hasn't hit as much for power. But he's still an important guy in this Angels lineup that when he can get on base consistently, he's definitely important. And obviously, he's been with the Angels now for quite a while, and I believe he's still only like 26 or 27 years old, so still relatively young. Definitely got a lot of room for growth. I think if Rengifo can get it going here, maybe hit some more home runs, get on base a bit more consistently, definitely adds another dimension to this Angels lineup as well. Let's move to the pitching here real quick. Their five-man starting pitching rotation has pretty much stayed consistent the whole season, which is kind of rare to do at this point when you have, what, around like 60 games left or so. Kikuchi and Soriano have been solid all year. Tyler Anderson has struggled at times, but he was, you know, their ace and all-star just last season. And Kikuchi, by the way, an all-star for the Angels this year. And then Kyle Hendricks and Jack Kahanowitz, they've kind of been up and down all year, but Kyle Hendricks, I think he's kind of been getting on the right track. Same thing with Jack Kahanowitz. Well, pretty much just based on their last starts that I was able to see. But yeah, the problem is, though, with the Angels team ERA, they are bottom 5 in the MLB. They also lead the league in walks, at least at the time of the recording of this video. And they've also given up the 5th most home runs at the recording of this video. But other guys keep an eye on. Jansen, looking for 500 career saves, has been tremendous all season as the Angels closer. Reed Detmers has made the switch to being a reliever, and he's been pretty solid, but has also had his ups and downs. But overall, the bullpen is still just kind of inconsistent. There's stretches where they're good, there's stretches where it's kind of okay, but that's definitely kind of been a big thing, right? That's always really been the thing with the Angels, I feel like, for the past 4 or 5 years. Can they get consistent pitching? They've also had key injuries, right? You think about Ben Joyce. He was sort of, I guess in a way, supposed to be in that closer role. Obviously, you know, you signed Jansen because he's going to be the closer, but Ben Joyce kind of was the closer to end off the 2024 season. He's been out for almost the whole year with an injury. Anthony Rendon is out all year. Obviously, like I said, Moncada has been in and out with injuries. Trout has dealt with his fair share of injuries, and Neto was out to start the season. Then Jorge Soler has missed a little bit of time too, if I'm not mistaken. So Angels have definitely had their fair of injuries as well. But overall, the Angels' home run power, it's kept them in games. Their young core of hitters keep making big plays, and it feels like they're really never out of a game. They're a super gritty and tough team. They hit for power, hit a lot of home runs, as I've continued to reiterate. And Kikuchi and Soriano, they have helped take pressure off of some of the Angels' home run hitters at times. But if the Angels' young guys and home run prowess keeps up, maybe they sneak in that third wildcard spot. I know it's a little bit of a stretch right now, but they've sort of barely been able to tread water. But however, I just kind of think it's unlikely due to the bullpen inconsistencies, and I think just some of the guys in their starting rotation, maybe like Hendricks and Kahanowitz, if they can improve and be really good in the second half of the season, yeah, definitely. I think the Angels can definitely make a run at that third wildcard spot, but we'll just have to see. But the last thing, prayers up for Ron Washington, who is out the rest of the season on medical leave. So praying he gets healthy. Hopefully hopefully he can be back for next season. And honestly, I think if the Angels keep this core together and add to their pitching, I really do think they can make a playoff run next year, hopefully with Trout, and hopefully a lot of these guys are able to stay healthy. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.